Thanks, Marty. The lush green Pocono Mountains of eastern Pennsylvania have been long known as a vacationer's and honeymooners' paradise. Throughout the season, visitors come here to enjoy the best of nature. But twice a year, thousands more flock just to watch the best of NASCAR. We welcome you to our live ESPN coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying from Pocono Raceway. We call it the Tricky Triangle here in the beautiful Pocono Mountains of eastern Pennsylvania. A huge weekend of motorsports coverage coming your way, culminating with two races, two different venues in two different countries. NASCAR now coming up next. NASCAR Sprint Cup practice tomorrow morning, followed by Nationwide Series practice from Montreal, and then live flag-to-flag action for NASCAR Nationwide Series cars at Montreal tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern Time. And, of course, back here on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time for the NASCAR Sprint Cup at Pocono, presented by Cheez-It. 5 different drivers attempting to pull double duty this weekend. It could be a very challenging weekend for them. Last Sunday's Brickyard 400 in Indianapolis posed to be the ultimate challenge for drivers and teams. You might say it was a very tiring day. There are major concerns about tire wear here today. How far will they go? And how much risk can they afford to take?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be sitting on that box today.
Competition yellow at lap number 10. They're going to keep coming in every 7 to 10 to 12 laps. They're going to wear these guys on pit road out. What a pit stop when the money was on the line. The champions rose to the top. Following the Brickyard 400, 8 of the top 13 positions change in the point standings. The big gainers, of course, you see the guys at Denny Hamlin up 4 spots, Kasey Kahne up 2. The losers, of course, Matt Kenseth, who finished 38, dropped 3 positions, and Kevin Harvick, who finished 37, just outside the cutoff for 12. He is 2 points out of 12th position, back in 13th spot. For more on last week's Indy winner, let's go down to the pits and Dave Burns.
And in the garage area right now, Doc, the 48 car of Jimmie Johnson just finishing up technical inspection before they get into the qualifying line. They drew 33rd today, so that's why they're still back here. Just a couple of things going on for them in practice today. They had just a little bit of a technical issue in practice. Transmission issues, actually the selector box, which they call the mixer, which is where they choose which gear to go in. They had some issues with that, a little bit sticky, didn't like the way it got on and off of pit road. So they worked on that between practices. But for the after the practice, but for the practice itself, they got everything done they wanted to do. They took a few mock qualifying runs, and they were quickest on the board. So good day so far for the 48, not without some troubles, but they're taking up just where they left off last week. Let's go down further in the garage area to Shannon Spake.
Well, Dave, quickest is definitely good here. Qualifying at Pocono, so important. Half of the races here have been won from the top 3 starting positions. 13 from the pole. Now, the most recent driver to capitalize on that #1 starting position, the pole, is Kasey Kahne. He earned the pole, led 69 laps on his way to his win back in June. Now, it was a rough day for Kasey Kahne. They were 27th fastest in practice, about 8/10 slower than your fastest driver, Jimmie Johnson. But I did speak with Kenny Francis. He told me that in practice, they concentrated on race trim, and that's because they think it's going to rain tomorrow. They want to make sure that that car is ready for the race on Sunday. He said he feels confident that they could make some changes. They're going to be good in qualifying. We won't have to wait long to see how good and see if he can defend that pole. He's lined up 5th to go out. Dave? Doc?
Shannon, if Kasey Kahne could pull it off, he would join an elite group of drivers who have swept both events here at Pocono, beginning with Bobby Allison back in 1982. The last 2 to do it, Jimmie Johnson in 2004 and Denny Hamlin in 2006. We welcome you inside our pit studio, located just behind pit road at Pocono Raceway, along with Andy Petrie and Dale Jarrett. I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. Now, they call this place the Tricky Triangle. Let's explain what we're talking about. I'll take the triangle part. It's shaped like that, folks, because there's only 3 turns here instead of 4. Now, you guys take the tricky part. Why is this place so tricky?
Well, there's a lot of things that make it tricky, but probably the biggest thing is each of these 3 corners have a different banking. And so as a driver, you know, in entering these corners, there are different things that you have to do and try to make your car do. That also makes the straightaways different for each one. It's really important that you hit your marks here. Driving in just a little bit too far can mess up the center of the corner and exit of the straightaway or of the corner and get that straightaway speed that you're looking for. So, and as a driver, that's what I look for. How about as a crew chief? Did you have one particular place that you looked to make up time?
Yeah, the turn 3 was the most important turn to me as a crew chief because of that long straightaway. There's so much time to be gained and lost on that straightaway. So I always like to set up for that corner because of that being the case. And also, you have to get through turn 3 twice because you've got to get up to speed and get down the straightaway on your get up to go lap and on your checker flag lap. So that to me is the most important corner in qualifying.
3 distinct turns, 8 degrees of separation. Wasn't there a movie like that one time? 6 degrees in turn 1, 8 degrees in turn 2, and of course, 14 in turn 1, 8 in turn 2, and only 6 in turn 3. Very, very challenging racetrack. 3 different turns, 3 different straightaways, a unique track that takes a lot of skill and a lot of cunning. Back with qualifying in a moment. X Games 14 continues tonight on ESPN. Coverage kicks off with X Center at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Then at 9 Eastern, watch Kevin Robinson attempt a three-peat as he defies gravity on the mega ramp during BMX Big Air. How good is that? Then during Moto X Step Up, will Brian Deegan step up to the podium? Or will Ricky Carmichael live up to his nickname, the greatest of all time? I'm betting on Ricky Carmichael, by the way. X Games 14 on ESPN coming up later tonight. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Jeff Gordon among the other drivers out to sign autographs and to a lot of the adoring fans. Jeff very successful here over the years, a 4-time winner, one of 11 former winners that are attempting to qualify for this race. Bill Elliott, by the way, also here. He is a 5-time winner at Pocono Raceway. Dale Jarrett, a 3-time winner, here with us in the pit studio. DJ, how difficult is it for these guys that are about to go out first to qualify here at Pocono?
Well, you know, we talked last week at Indy about not wanting to draw first or any of those first, or you wanted to be first there. You didn't want to be last because the track heats up. Well, the track's been sitting here. Even though they had ARCA qualifying here just a little bit ago, it's still been sitting for at least the last 30 minutes, only heating up, and it's just going to be the most difficult condition, you know, for Michael Waltrip and those guys that are going out early. They're not going to have a lot of grip in the racetrack, so they're not looking to make to be outstanding in qualifying. So I'm sure that they'll make what they can of it and go from there. This is a fun qualifying lap, though. I always look forward to this. I always thought it was a good time, as long as I didn't have to go out first.
Why don't we check in and see what Clint Bowyer has to say? Shannon.
Yeah, down here with Clint Bowyer, just talking about the car. How do you think your car is going to be in qualifying? We know how important it is to start up front here at Pocono.
Yeah, we'll go out a little bit earlier than I would like, but the Jack Daniels Chevrolet was good. We were pretty good in practice, comfortable. That's been a word that I haven't been able to say in actually a couple months here. So looking forward to having a good race no matter where we qualify. But I think we can hopefully qualify in the top 10. We can see the front from there, and that'd be a breath of fresh air for us. Guys have been beat up on pretty bad. They've been working really hard. We had a good practice test in Nashville this week, and just pretty confident that we can fix this problem.
Now, a lot of teams look to last week to use some momentum for the rest of the season. Obviously, last week was a unique situation. How much do you guys need a good run here today for the rest of the season, Clint?
Well, we just need a good run, period. But it means so much. I mean, momentum and confidence is such a big part of this sport, and we just need to get things started off back on the right foot, and Pocono can definitely be that place for us.
All right, Clint Bowyer, getting ready for qualifying.
Thank you, Shannon. Speaking of trying to get back on the right foot, here's the guy who had a frustrating weekend at Indianapolis, Michael Waltrip, who finished 43rd, involved in a lap 4 incident, spun, had contact with Paul Menard, and finished dead last at a big event like Indy.
Yeah, you can see Michael using that new asphalt to get off of turn 3. He's trying to build up as much speed as he can off this corner just so he can carry that speed down the straightaway. The lap time doesn't start till right there at the line, but you got to have that speed built up by then or you'll lose a ton of time between that line and turn 1.
Yeah, it was also always very important to get that speed, and I can remember crew chiefs always talking about you had to get through turn 3 to get to the green flag because you could lose a lot of time. And that's where you actually had the most grip with your tires. They were still relatively good at that time. By the time you get back around there the next time, you've lost a lot of grip going through turns 1 and 2. As you can see Michael headed towards the tunnel turn right now.
This has been a good track for Michael over the years. He is a former pole sitter here, won the pole in the first race here in 2005, has 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s, had a runner-up finish here back in 1988 driving a Pontiac in a Toyota today, the first of 44 cars to make an attempt to qualify.
It's just so wild to me. For so many years, we ran down there, and if we could get our left front in the grass, that's where you wanted it to be to get some grip, as we see Michael come to the stripe here now. But that new pavement up there has more grip than the old pavement, and the guys just migrated that. They said that I think Dale Jr. was credited with getting up there, he and Greg Biffle, to back in the test session, and it worked really well for them.
Michael, the first of 44 to go. Back with more in a moment. Pocono Raceway, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying ongoing here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Michael Waltrip has already gone out, turned a much quicker lap than he had turned in practice earlier today. Here's Paul Menard. He is the second car to go out, and Menard's clocking at 54.346. That's 165.6 miles per hour, and that is also quicker than the quickest lap he ran earlier today in practice.
That's one thing I've never been able to figure out about this track is how you guys pick up so much from practice to qualifying. This is one track that I've just never been able to figure that out because it has to be a driver deal.
You think, but I don't know that many drivers do a lot different other than you know that you just have everything there. You're able to put that full tape on it, get the tires exactly right. I think tire pressures were always something that was big here before, and I believe it still is today. And I think you get that whole package at the right time, and you just go out there and you know that you have to make that lap. And again, it's such a fun qualifying lap that gives you a little extra incentive for that.
This guy was a bit of an enigma. Speaking of picking up, in practice today, Tony Stewart, as he takes the green flag in qualifying, was 39th on the speed chart. He was also one of the last cars to go on the racetrack.
You got to believe that maybe that speed is because they worked on race setup also. We heard Dave Burns report that Jimmie Johnson and Chad Canal chose to do that because they thought that it might be raining here, or some others were working on that. Casey Kahne, I believe it was, I'm sorry, and that they just worked on that quite a bit, and I think Tony and them might have done that. I think they really want to win a race. I know they want to start up front, but they want to put some time here. They're not where they want to be with their program on race day.
Yeah, I've been seeing a little pattern with this 20 car. They were not very good at Indianapolis, especially in practice before qualifying, and then they weren't as good in the race as we expected them to be and didn't finish the race very well. I mean, they actually faded a little bit at the end. And then for them to come here and practice poorly, but you can see he's definitely in the green. At this point in the racetrack, he's going to beat Paul Menard's lap, and he's going to pick up quite a bit from practice. Yeah, he does. He picks up some 7/10 from practice.
Big pickup for Tony Stewart, a former winner here and pole sitter here as well. You're talking about his year. You mentioned he is yet to win in 2008. 0 for 20 thus far. Back, he's got a 34-race winless streak going. Tries to get that ended this weekend. 6 top 5s, 9 top 10s. He is 10th in the points. He was 5th in the points at this point a year ago. Speaking of eventful springs here in Pocono, Juan Pablo Montoya had one he would soon like to forget. There's the contact. Juan Pablo Montoya in the 07 of Clint Bowyer. Heavy contact, and Juan Pablo Montoya's Dodge erupts in flames as he tries to get it off the racetrack, and he tries to bail out in a hurry. Juan Pablo Montoya didn't have the kind of Indianapolis he wanted either. Had involved in a tire issue early on and had to call it a day early with losing a lot of laps in the garage area. Would end up finishing 39th in his Dodge.
Yeah, he'd be one among many that'll be glad to get here and where they can race and go through a full fuel stop with tires and no problems there.
Yeah, I talked to Tony Glover in the garage area this morning. It feels like this 42 team is really on the upswing. They did run well at Indy, although they did have the problem. So they have some things to be excited about. They feel like he's going to run good here. Sure looks good from where we're sitting right now. Is tracking well into the green.
He made a really good turn one there. He got through the center of the corner and off the corner, down the back, what we call the back straightaway.
She's going the wrong way through the tunnel turn. If he can hit this last corner, this is the most important one in my mind, is to hit this corner really good and carry that speed down the straightaway.
They say some of the guys who are good road racers really can handle turn 2 and some of these turns pretty well. This guy's one of the best when it comes to road racing, as evidenced by his win at Infineon a year ago, and he certainly gained a lot of time and speed in turn 2 and puts himself at the top of the speed charts.
He picks up almost, or a little over 8 tenths, almost 9 tenths of a second from practice.
Juan Pablo making his 4th career start at this racetrack. His best finish 16th in this race a year ago. Kasey Kahne in the Budweiser Dodge. How good was he a month ago here, starting from the pole? Pit stop for the 9 car. Kasey Kahne had their issues in the pits. Although he had a great starting spot, they had trouble on pit road.
Yeah, they had a 4-tire stop. They called a 2-tire stop, and they took off and left the lug nuts loose, had to come back.
And come back he did, as he was able to drive that car back to the front. Brian Vickers there to battle him, but Kasey Kahne would come from back to front to pick up his 2nd win in just 3 weeks. Leading 5 times for 69 laps to take the win at Pocono. What a difference a year makes for Kasey Kahne. He was shut out in the win column at this point a year ago. 10 top 10 finishes already. That's more than he had the entire 2007 season.
Yeah, marked improvement over it. And they were not happy, obviously, with what happened last year, but they really went to work and found some things that have worked for them. You know, they didn't start off the season all that great. They were pretty consistent, but they weren't all that great as far as challenging for victories. But around Charlotte time, he really did well.
How about that entry, that big wide arc he made into turn 1? That's the first one we've seen arc it that wide.
And it really worked for him. He got through there better than what we saw Juan Pablo Montoya, and was going well, but he didn't get down and off of that corner quite as well, Andy.
Yeah, it looks like he lost a little bit on the straightaway, actually.
Whoa!
Got the wall. That's going to knock a little speed out.
I don't think he came out of the gas, though.
No, he's still in the green.
Still in the green and still in the gas. Kasey Kahne on that strip of asphalt you were talking about, Andy, and it's critical against DJ right here to get off of turn 3.
That's what they're looking for, is that grip, so they can get back to the throttle and utilize this straightaway.
Yeah, he left it all on the racetrack. He didn't leave anything,
including some decals that say Budweiser.
Yeah, I'd have to say, if he's going to say that he didn't, if he lost some time, I'm sure that he's going to say off of turn 1. That's where we saw him lose a little bit of time, but he didn't leave anything out there off of turn 2. As you see, he's in the throttle hard. Oh, just barely gets that right rear in there.
These cars are pretty tough. It doesn't seem like you can, a hit like that doesn't really hurt him too much.
Slowing down Kasey Kahne. He right now is at the top of the speed charts, 54.047 seconds. Dave is standing by with Tony Stewart.
Felt really good, though.
Yep, and he's breaking it down with crew members now after that run. Crew chief Zippy.
Hold on.
Does Jason get a say here?
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is, Jason and Scott Gertz have been having this ongoing battle about who's the bigger wheelman here, and they've got a little go-kart slick track here, and I keep telling him how he needs to go avenge his big loss out at Petaluma, California from the Sonoma weekend.
It was a very close race, and I mean, some people think I won, and that's what's important.
So you weren't including this guy in the 3-man wheelman discussion, were you?
No, he's not enough competition when we get to a slick track.
Wow. How slick was this track today, Tony, in the qualifying run?
It wasn't terrible by any means. We picked up 3/4 of a second, and he was asking me if I was having to chase the back with the front or the front with the back, and I said, yeah, when the back goes, that's called loose. I said, that's something you're going to need tonight when you go get your butt kicked again. So
I'm reading this book, Butch Miller's Short Track Secrets.
Oh, here we go.
When I finish that up, I'm going to come out, show them how to do it.
What about your book?
I don't have a book. It's like Driving for Dummies is the only thing I could write for him right now. So no, this has been an ongoing thing for about 4 years now, and he's one of those guys that it's like as soon as you open the gate, his mouth's going faster than he is, and he's been talking about how good he was there, but nobody that was an eyewitness there could seem to understand how he thought he was so good, but yet he was like a lap down in every race almost. So
it's a to be continued, guys, I think, at this point. All right, good luck, Tony.
Tony Stewart having some fun. Jeff Gordon on the racetrack. Of course, Jeff Gordon, pretty good numbers here.
Here we go. He's the first one into the 53-second bracket, 53.85.
He's a 2-time pole sitter in the past, 4-time winner, and Gordon gives him something to shoot at. 53.858 seconds for Jeff Gordon. 4-time winner. Look at that list. Pretty impressive, huh? Bill Elliott yet to go qualify. So is Bobby Labonte. Right now, Jeff Gordon at the top of the charts. Qualifying continuing here at Pocono Raceway. Jamie McMurray, the 7th car to go out. Former pole sitter himself here. Trying to get a grip on this difficult racetrack.
He was working the steering wheel a lot right there, getting off of turn 2.
Yeah,
that looks to be a little slicker.
You can see how that graph there is going straight down. He lost a lot of time right there.
Yeah, that's where Jeff Gordon was really, really good. He made a lot of time, and as we watch these other cars try to beat Jeff Gordon's time, they're going to really have to get through the tunnel turn because Jeff laid down a lap there.
Jamie coming off his best finish of the year last week at Indianapolis, 6th overall. Disappointed probably in his qualifying run. He is 6th right now of the 7 cars that have gone out to take time.
He picked up a little bit, but just not as much as some of these other guys.
That's key, and you know that these other guys are going to pick up, and it makes you go at it a little bit harder maybe sometimes and overdrive these corners a little bit, and then that's when you find yourself getting in a little bit of trouble. So let's see, Clint Bowyer will be the next car on the track.
Where do you find yourself overdriving the racetrack the most? Would it be getting into one or getting in these flat corners?
Yeah, I think really I always found that getting into one, you're really jacked up. If you did what your crew chief was telling you to do, get off of turn 3 to come to the green, then you were actually carrying more speed down to turn 1. You always want to try to get just that little bit of extra, so you drive it a little further, and then you're already carrying a little bit more speed. The next thing you know, if you just don't have all the maximum grip, then you find yourself out of your groove just a little bit.
Clint Bowyer, one of the drivers who will be doing double duty. There are 5 drivers who will be practicing here and headed to Montreal tomorrow after happy hour to run in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. While you watch Clint Bowyer, let's visit with Bobby Labonte, a former winner here. Shannon?
Yeah, he actually swept here in '99, Bobby Labonte. So many drivers have swept here. How much information translates from one race to the next, especially with these new cars, Bobby?
Well, I mean, I think some do. Some does. You know, I think we're a little bit better as far as in race trim when we unloaded this morning than we did last time we unloaded. The track does change, you know, even though it's been just a few weeks ago since I've been here, about 7 weeks. The track does change. You know, usually you lose a little grip. So, you know, but it's not really that hot of a day. So it's kind of balanced out pretty decent. But, you know, the races here are pretty close to each other, so it's not that far off. But you do lose a little bit of grip, so you have to make up for it somehow or another, or try to make up for it somehow or another.
All right, we're going to let him go out there and see if he can make it up somewhere, Doc.
Bobby Labonte, how good has he been at this racetrack over the years? And he had a great run going for the King Richard Petty's 43 team last week at Indianapolis. Got that speeding penalty on pit road, and it cost him a top 10 finish.
Clint's going to be a little disappointed with this lap. 54-42.
Yeah, he was talking that he thought they might get a top 10 starting spot, but that's definitely not going to get that. And again, all it takes is just a little bit of a slip.
Clint Bowyer known for being able to get up on the wheel. In fact, he started his career getting up on 2 wheels, as did his hero.
I race dirt cars, but I watch motorcycle racing. I mean, Ricky Carmichael, I grew up watching him.
Ricky Carmichael, number 6.
The career that he made for himself and you know, how well he did for himself is just, it's neat. It probably wasn't until like 2002 or 2003 that I really even watched NASCAR or even paid attention to it.
The checkers for Carmichael.
But all those guys of the motocross ranks, I mean, those were my heroes growing up.
You can see Ricky Carmichael, see if he lives up to his nickname, the greatest of all time, and see, I'm sure Clint Bowyer will be watching tonight. X Games 14 continues tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Moto X Step Up. Will it be Brian Deegan stepping to the podium, or will Ricky Carmichael continue his domination? Let's go down to Dave.
And Jeff Gordon is broken it down with a few guys right now. Steve Letarte, crew chief, just walking up here. Jeff, a good pickup of 53.85, about all it had?
I think so. You know, it was a good solid lap, all 3 corners. It was a pickup from practice. I just can't tell you how proud I am of this DuPont Chevrolet team. I mean, last time we were here, we qualified way in the bag. I don't even know where. And, you know, to come out these last couple weeks on these big tracks and be as strong as we've been, I doubt whether that'll be the pole. Jimmy's going to be tough. There's a couple other guys. But that's still a really solid lap for us and a good pickup. And I'm very happy. Got a good race car for this weekend.
And it seems like the organization as a whole, Jimmy's win last week, is catching its strength right now.
Yeah, you know, just hope it's not too late. I don't think it is, but, you know, we're lacking those bonus points in that win. But as far as team and speed and all that's concerned, we got it right now, and I'm pumped about that.
Jerry?
Hard to believe, but Jeff Gordon, folks, started 38 here back in June. And that is about as bad as I've ever seen him. Of course, he drove it really hard in turn one and almost lost it and had to start in the back of the pack. Travis Kvapil, here's a driver and team that seems to be really excited about what the future holds. They got Hitachi Power Tools on as a sponsor. Doug Yates, Max Jones talked to Travis in the garage area. He said, we just need to be able to get some of these good runs to come together, get some top 15s, then some top 10s.
Yeah, this team's done a lot with not a lot at the beginning of this year. And I think they're very deserving of the sponsorship, and they have a good race team and a good race driver. It's just a matter of them now putting it all together. And you know, hopefully this will kind of get Doug Yates and his team and his time as an owner going, and this will only be better things to come for them. Pretty good lap for him.
Fourth overall, not bad at all for Travis Kvapil. 54.273 seconds, 165.8 plus miles per hour. So of the 9 cars that have gone.
Yeah, this has always been one of Todd Parrott's favorite places. He really enjoys the challenge that this place presents, and knowing that you're not going to get all 3 corners totally figured out and make the driver happy for all of them, but he was usually able and has been for a lot of years to get 2 of the 3 figured out and make a lot of speed. And when you have Doug Yates' horsepower under the hood, it helps a lot too.
Yeah, it really helps get that car handled on the straightaway. Makes those corners a little easier.
What a difference a year makes for Team Red Bull. Ryan Vickers on the racetrack with his Toyota. Really getting competitive, maturing as a team. You see there after 20 races this year, 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s in the average finish overall. And what really helped that average was Brian Vickers, this driver, when he came here back in June and finished 2nd.
This has always been one of his favorites. He really enjoys getting around here, and it was like the first time that he came here. You know, some people just really get this place, like Denny Hamlin, and Brian was one of those people too. When he was at Hendrick Motorsports, it just fit his style. He saw something he liked about it, and that's carried over. Obviously, it wasn't just the race car because he finished 2nd here back in June.
I know somebody else this track fit pretty well too. Dale Jarrett. Wow. Every time you came up here, you were so competitive.
Vickers finished 2nd. Remember, A.J. Allmendinger finished 12th here back in June. So you heard about talk about the running of the Bulls in Pamplona. How about the running of the Red Bulls in Pocono? Pretty good effort in June. See if these guys can improve on it. Vickers. And by the way, you A.J. Allmendinger fans, he was very good in practice, so he is yet to come out and qualify, coming off that career best finish of 10th at Indianapolis last week.
This car looks to be more harsh over the bumps than some of the cars we've seen, Dale, and I believe that's where he's struggling just a little bit. It's even bouncing a little bit on the straightaways. Still got a good lap in here. 3rd quickest, 54.04. Actually, he ties for 2nd spot to the 3rd number.
Not bad at all, 3rd overall. As you said, most of these drivers will take just the 1 lap here at Pocono in qualifying as Brian Vickers slows down.
I think you go 2.5 miles around here. They're still tied to the thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that could happen. And Brian didn't get through turns 1 and 2, or turn 1. Still hard to say because we have the 3 distinct corners here. But he didn't get through there, but he really made up a lot of time. We talked about how good Jeff Gordon was through the tunnel turn, but Brian actually made up some time there and through turn 3.
Well, battling the bumps and bumping and jumping is nothing new for this driver, Casey Mears, whose career began off of the asphalt.
I am Casey Mears. We got a new off-road car. It's got almost 700 horsepower, 25 inches of wheel travel. It's really an off-road race car that you take out in the sand dunes to play with. I really enjoy the desert. Got the freedom to do whatever you want. I mean, there just isn't any rules. There's no one telling you whether you can go left or right, stop, slow down. You know, you can run as fast as you want. And there's just not a lot of things in this world that are like that anymore. I mean, it's wild and crazy and we're having fun, but at the same time, it's a good getaway. I am Casey Mears.
He will be our in-race reporter on Sunday. If you'd like to ask Casey a question, you can log on to ESPN.com, keyword Ask the Driver, and possibly have your question answered by Casey Mears. Dale Jarrett will ask him possibly your question and one of ours, as Casey will be talking to us, he and crew chief Alan Gustafson, during the pre-race and throughout the afternoon here in Sunday's coverage.
Casey was pretty good in practice. He was 9th quickest in practice, so look for a pretty good run here. kind of continue that Hendrick Motorsports thing that they've found some things and seem to be on track.
See, he lost a little bit off of turn 1 and down the backstretch. He loses a little bit more in the tunnel turn.
Casey's very first career pole in NASCAR Sprint Cup competition came here in August of 2004. So he can get it done at this racetrack, but losing some valuable time there off of 3 as he comes down to the checkered flag.
Boy, that's not the lap he was looking for at all. Like I say, he was 9th quickest in practice, and that's still just 9th out of 11 cars that have qualified.
You'll probably hear him say lack of grip, and it looked like maybe that lack of grip was in the rear more than the front.
He's still on it, and I don't know if he'll try a second lap or not.
Yeah, by the way, that was the white flag. You get 2 consecutive laps. He is off of it.
And got a little bit loose. Right in the center of 1 and 2. I got it stopped. Got it slowed down good. When I got it turned to try to get back to the gas, I got a little bit free.
Casey Mears will not start in the top 10, but he should be in there before the day is done. He's that good here at Pocono Raceway. Back with more in a moment.
Welcome to Montreal, Quebec and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's the second of 3 road course races on the NASCAR Nationwide Series schedule. Last year, late race drama brought the Canadian fans to their feet in a very tricky turn 1. Marcus Ambrose is back, and he'll be flanked by road course rivals Boris Said and Mad Max Pappas. Canadian hometown heroes Ron Fellows, Patrick Carpentier, and F1 world champion Jacques Villeneuve will challenge the nationwide regulars and the stars of NASCAR on Montreal's famous 14-turn road course. Saturday, 2:30 p.m., NASCAR Nationwide Series action from Montreal.
NASCAR now coming up following our coverage of Sprint Cup qualifying. NASCAR Sprint Cup Pocono practice tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. The NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Then live flag-to-flag coverage 2:30 Eastern time from Montreal. And of course back here on Sunday 1 o'clock Eastern time, the NASCAR Sprint Cup at Pocono presented by Cheez-It on ESPN on Sunday. Dave Blaney on the racetrack trying to get his Toyota qualified here in the top 10. And Shannon is caught up with Ryan Newman.
Yeah, down here with Ryan Newman. 2 poles here at Pocono. Now, last time we were here, you said you guys felt like you really got the balance of this car worked out. How do you think it's going to be here this weekend, and especially right now in qualifying?
Our Avis Dodge was decent in qualifying practice. I didn't get a good lap in it. We were 15th, so we look forward to qualifying here. We weren't a fast car in the first race here. We were a decent car. We were consistent, but we weren't consistently the fastest car. So hopefully we made some improvements based off Indianapolis and the first Pocono to be faster here with this Avis Dodge.
Now, last week you told me that you guys were pretty close to figuring out where you're going to go next season. Can you tell us when you're going to announce where you're going to be next year?
No, but we're getting closer.
Still getting closer, guys. Dave?
And Shannon caught up with Brian Vickers now. While the guys were watching your lap, they described the ride looking harsh. Now, did it feel that way or just quick?
It was a little harsh. You know, you should have seen the first run we made today. You think that one was harsh? I think we hit everything under the car the first run. You know, it was on the track a little bit. It was a little harsh, but this track's gotten rough, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, just because I make that comment doesn't mean let's go repave it. You know, but it's gotten very, very rough. Even down the straightaways, you see cars sparking down the front stretch, but it adds something to it. You know, it's unique. And with these cars, the way we try to run them with the splitters and as low as we try to get them the bump stops, it makes for a rough ride.
All right, that's Brian Vickers. And guys, don't go running with that repave it comment. He didn't mean repave it right now.
I'm sure Brian would not like to have this track repaved because he has run so well here. Obviously, that second place finish here back in the June. Here's a 99 car, Carl Edwards.
He should be a pole contender. He was 3rd in practice.
Carl, a 3-time winner thus far in 2008. Runner-up finish last week in Indianapolis. How do you finish 2nd in the race and lose a spot in the point standings? That's what happened to Carl Edwards. He finished 2nd at Indianapolis and lost a spot, but to Jimmie Johnson, who led the most laps and won the race.
Yeah, that's about the only way that's going to happen. This team is, I think, kind of hitting its stride, too. I know that's hard to say when they won so many races early in the season, but they kind of had a lull there for a little while, but they seem to be getting things back on track, and this is actually my pick to win the race here this weekend.
Carl won at California, Las Vegas, and at Texas. He's also a former winner here at Pocono Raceway. Bob Osborne, a native Pennsylvanian, watching his driver. And not a bad effort for Carl. 5th overall. 54.192, speed 166.076 miles per hour.
That's the first car that's actually slowed down that I've seen. Slows down a couple hundredths in practice.
Watching NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying, we are pleased to be joined by the winner of the race here back in June, Kasey Kahne. And Kasey, thanks for taking a few minutes to come over and talk with us. You're right now sitting on the outside front row, not going to be on the pole again, but again in June you had them covered from your pole starting spot.
Yeah, we had a great Budweiser Dodge Charger in June, and it felt really good today. In first practice, we did a lot of race runs. Then we switched over and made a qualifying run at the end, and we missed it pretty bad. So we weren't very fast on the sheet, but I thought we could get up there, and that was a good lap for us. I rubbed the wall, lost a little bit off of the tunnel there. I should have stayed off of that, but other than that, it was a good lap. The car felt really strong.
How much speed do you think that knocked out of it right there?
I don't know, because I was lifting a little as I was getting to it. I was getting nervous that I was going to hit it, and I did. So I lost a little bit, probably maybe a tenth, but definitely not. Still wouldn't have been the pole. And I don't know, Jeff Gordon, that's a good lap, but it's going to be tough for that to be the pole as well.
Yeah, I saw. Now, when I was talking and I said Carl Edwards was my pick, I saw you cut your eyes over here at me. It'd have been too easy to pick you to get this week. Same car and everything, though?
Yeah, same car. That car was brand new when we came to this race in June, and it's just been sitting in the shop. We got it all ready to go, and it's been sitting there waiting to come back. We took a brand new car to Indy last week, which I'm pretty sure we'll take to Michigan next week. It was another good one.
Kasey Kahne, our guest here in the pit studio. We'll take a quick break while they're cleaning up some of the debris on the racetrack, and we'll continue with our visit with Kasey Kahne, the winner here back in June when he led 69 laps. There he is. 9 races, 1 win, 3 top 10s. Kasey, very good at this racetrack. Back in a moment.
Summer Olympics. To me, I always like the running. What do they play?
I'd say the one that I keep my eye on the most would be the swim competition.
I don't think I've ever watched anything during the Summer Olympics. I always watch winter.
Beach volleyball is probably the one I've watched the most.
Downhill's snow skiing, right?
I like that little short track skating deal they do where they're all in there and they're it's like ice skating in Bristol.
Girls in bikinis. I mean, it's nice. I enjoy watching those ones.
Just the running, because ultimately it's a race.
I'll watch ESPN to see the highlights on, but swimming's what keeps my attention.
They told me to say that, I think.
You know, back inside the pits, Kasey Kahne, really a huge fan of just the raw athleticism, the ability, jumping ability there in beach volleyball, right?
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I think we all are.
I believe Martin Truex on for qualifying. We'll see how Martin can do, and he's up there, almost up in the Kasey Kahne territory. Keeps it out of the concrete.
I noticed today that the patch through turns 3, it's not quite as there's not quite as much grip there as there was last time. It's less, and if you get over the top of it, it's real slippery above it.
That's just such a different line to what you guys go around that now, because I was saying earlier, it was as far down to the bottom as what you wanted to be or could get before, and now all of a sudden you're almost 3 lanes up.
Right, and it was tough. I remember actually racing you in 04, and you were right on the bottom, and I was right off the bottom, and it was tough to pass. I mean, You guys were really good that day too. I think you run up front.
Kasey, how much different is the racetrack? We were talking about that earlier, and just among us here, when you come here now versus when you come in June, and it's been sitting here in the sun for an extra month and a half baking.
To me, my car, we unloaded with the same setup, and it felt really similar. You're just about a second slower. It's just a slower pace. So I think you just give up a little bit of grip around the entire track. But as far as how the car was handling, the characteristics, what it's doing into the corner and off the corner, I felt like it was really similar.
Possible debris out of the one car here for Martin Truex in qualifying. Let's see if we can show you what came out of the car. NASCAR has spotters all around the racetrack.
Wow. Something big. It could have been maybe a brake duct hose. The one thing I noticed about this, the last 2 cars have actually slowed down from their practice speeds, and we've been commenting on how everybody's picking up. I don't know if the track's just got slicker or something on it, but these last 2 cars have definitely went slower than
if there was a little cloud cover to start with, maybe the sun's come back. It doesn't take much to heat this place up and make it really really difficult to get around, does it?
Hopefully it's getting hotter.
Now, we saw saw you touch the wall there off too. That safer barrier that they put there took some of the racetrack away. I mean, even though you've raced here, it still narrows it up in a hurry, doesn't it?
It does narrow it up, and that's, to me, that's a pretty critical spot, is to be able to follow that curb right around the inside and stay low. That's one of the things I'll work on tomorrow, is just to stay low so you can get a good shot off and you're not getting up close to the wall, because if you're racing somebody, that's one of the spots you have to beat them to 3, and try to get under and get back to the patch as quick as you can.
How much do you have to keep yourself aware of the brake usage going into 1? I know you don't shift anymore here, or most people don't shift anymore. Are you concerned about overusing the brakes when you come down this long straightaway?
You are concerned about that, but to me, the biggest thing is how fast can you coast, making sure your car can turn once you get there, because if your car can coast fast, you can get off the brakes quick and you save the brakes. So I think you really need to work on coasting fast and be able to get back to the throttle as quickly as you can, and if you can do that, your brakes will look a lot better than someone who's tight getting into turn 1.
Kasey Kahne won here in June, trying to go for the sweep, and this driver here, Bobby Labonte, has already done it here at Pocono Raceway. Driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, June 20th, 1999, in front of Jeff Gordon, Bobby Labonte would take the victory. Jimmy Makar and company celebrating, and then a month and a half later, July 25th. Bobby Labonte becomes one of the sweepers here at Pocono. Kasey Kahne hoping to pull it off again here in 2008, but here's Bobby Labonte on the clocks trying to get his Dodge qualified.
Not quite as critical, Kasey, to get to the bottom of turn 1 anymore as what you used to?
I feel like in qualifying, maybe not, because the bumps are down there and it's rougher across the bottom of the track, so it's easier to get your car loose. But in the race, I think it's really critical to be on the bottom. It's just a shorter distance. You can go around the top, and I just feel like this year you can go around the bottom there better than the top for some reason. And in the past, I think it's been pretty good around the top on the outside groove there.
Here we see Bobby Labonte running in that fresh patch of asphalt that was fresh before the first race here. It's lost a little bit of grip this time, but still the faster way around turn 3.
That's a good lap right there.
Great lap.
Bobby is qualified in the top 10 here 11 times. He may make it 12 times.
Still lost a little bit in the center exit, but I was spot on in 1.
How much knowledge on that truck watching Dale Inman and Richard Petty up there watching Bobby Labonte? How many races have those guys won together, huh?
They'll tell him what he did wrong when he gets back.
4th overall for Bobby Labonte in the 43 car.
Did you hear how Bobby was out of breath right there just after one qualifying lap? Where does that come from? It can't be that physical.
No, it's definitely not that physical, but I think you're so focused and, just so, you try to get as much out of your car as you can on that one lap, and you can, I don't know if you don't breathe quite as well or what it is, but I always kind of get a little out of breath there too.
Yeah, you wanted to know earlier how these drivers pick up? That's what they do. They hold their breath for a lap, man.
Here's one of the drivers who will be doing double duty this weekend, Greg Biffle in the 16 car. Biffle will be headed to Montreal. Colin Brown, by the way, will practice and qualify his car, and he will fly up there and get in it for the race. But he's going to get focused right now on qualifying here in the Sprint Cup car at Pocono.
Before you came in here, Kasey, we were talking about how important it is to get up to get up to speed lap, getting off of turn 3. How much do you concentrate on that?
Right. That's a really big corner, just because for one, it's your qualifying lap, and you can carry so much into turn 1 on your first lap, and also knowing what your car's doing there will tell you a lot about what it's going to do when you get to turn 1 at 200 and some miles an hour on your lap that you're holding your breath.
It's nice to have a little idea what it's going to do.
Right.
Kasey, Greg Biffle had a really good car here in June. In fact, ran in a top 5 much of the day.
Yeah, I raced with Greg a lot that first race, and he was fast. He was fast at the end. He was fast throughout the entire race.
That's the best I've seen a car get through the tunnel turn yet.
Yeah, he picked up on what Jeff Gordon did through there, as you can see with our tracker, and he's actually gone ahead of Jeff Gordon right here. Lost a little bit off of turn 3.
Must have to get out of the throttle just a little bit off that corner, and it just kills that speed to the line.
4th overall for Biffle. He had a pole run going in the middle of turn 3, and he'd lost some time there. Not a bad effort for Greg Biffle in the Roush Fenway Ford. Qualifying ongoing. Jeff Gordon, the top of speed charts. 16 cars have gone. There are just 6 races remaining in the race to the chase. Kasey Kahne won from the pole back in June. Kurt Busch dominated this race a year ago. Jeff Gordon leads all full-time drivers with 4 wins at Pocono. So many stories, so much action, all coming your way. Beginning with NASCAR Countdown, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Pocono, presented by Cheez-It. 44 car, David Rudeman out for his qualifying run. And while you watch this, let's visit with the driver who was the pole sitter for this race a year ago.
That's right, Doc. And right now, his teammate Jeff Gordon is on the pole. Dale, do you have what it takes to knock Jeff Gordon off the pole here?
Well, I got the equipment, so hopefully we can get down in the corner good and do right. But we were pretty happy at practice. We weren't quite as quick as some of those guys, but we were still pretty good. And I think we're really improving on what we brought here last time, and I don't know if it really is going to show up in qualifying, but we're going to. I mean, it really just comes down to me just being able to get through the corner good and doing it right.
Now, all 3 of these turns are very different. Which of these are your best turn, and which one do you struggle with the most?
It's different every lap. You know, turn 1 seems to be the toughest for this car. The COT really trying to get down in that corner and get turned. Overdriving that corner is real easy, and the tunnel turn is easy to overdrive too. You know, they're all very easy to overdrive, but turn 1 is probably the easiest one. Just backing the corner up and trying to get the acceleration on exit to make the straightaway as long as you can is really the key.
All right, he sat on the pole last year, Doc.
Pole sitter a year ago, finished second, his best career finish here at Pocono. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Again, Jeff Gordon, his teammate, has given him something to shoot at. Still got him to go, Jimmie Johnson to go, and others in the Hendrick stable.
It almost sounded like he was giving himself a pep talk for qualifying to try to keep himself from overdriving the car.
Elliott Sadler doesn't need a pep talk. You see him after that great run last week, finishing 4th at Indianapolis. Here is Ryan Newman. Ryan, a 2-time pole sitter and former winner here at Pocono.
Yeah, we know Ryan will be fast. He's had a couple poles here in the past, so this will be a good lap for him.
He was 15th quickest in practice, ran a 54.47. Of course, everyone picking up considerably. Although in the last 15 minutes, the sun seems to be coming out here.
Yeah, did you get a little bit of shade on your run, Kasey?
I don't really remember. I don't know.
You're holding your breath and closing your eyes.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was shade. I know the majority of the track was sun. Seems like there might have been some shade in one of the corners, though.
Like
which any corner helps.
Yeah. Like Ryan got down in the corner good, but he just lost a little off the exit.
Yeah, not much, not bad. Totally different look for this car. Red car with Avis on it.
It's going to be hard to pick him out of the pack on Sunday.
Red car, Roy McCauley. Crew chief right up there close to the wall.
Another car gets through the tunnel real well.
Yeah, nice exit there.
Okay, right here is where it counts.
And let's see if the Rocket Man can do it. Getting close to that 24 line, back even. Does he have enough oomph out of turn 3? And he will not do it.
He's going to get you, though, Kasey, by just a little bit. Another car in the 53-second bracket.
Ryan Newman, 2nd quickest here overall, moves Kasey Kahne back to 3rd. We told you Ryan Newman is a former winner here. The win came from the pole back in 2003.
Ryan did a lot of winning in 2003, if I remember right.
Yeah, he led 88 laps of this race back in 2003, and that's his only victory. He has finished 2nd here and has actually he has 5 other top 5 finishes. Kevin Harvick, the next driver to go out to qualify, and we know what happened to him a week ago at Indianapolis, involved in an early incident here. And he is the one of the 3 Richard Childress Racing drivers that has yet to win this year. Somewhat of a surprise. Clint Bowyer has already won at Richmond. Jeff Burton at Bristol. Kevin Harvick thought he had a good car to run Indianapolis, and that went away early on when he was involved in the incident there with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, going into the race on Sunday, I thought Kevin was going to be one of the guys you had to beat. I thought he looked really good in practice, and just kind of wrong place at the wrong time, it looked like.
Now it's put a lot of pressure on this team to really get things in order. They got a handful of races to make the chase. They're just outside of it, so he needs a good race here to get started on that.
See, he did a good job of doing what you wanted to do, Andy, and that's get off of turn 3 to come to get the green.
Yeah, he was solidly in the green all the way to turn 1.
You mentioned Kevin Harvick is 2 points out of the top 12. Casey, just 100 points separate 7th from 13th. How much do you start to feel the pressure now if you're in that pretty crowded bubble area?
I think you definitely feel it. I mean, it's one of those things as a team, as a driver, you know, for your whole company, you need to make the chase. You need to do everything you can, and we're one of the cars that definitely has a good shot at it if we do everything right and no mistakes. So I've every week you look at just, I have to finish, whether it's 20th or 2nd. I mean, it doesn't matter. You have to finish the race. You cannot get 43rd or get in a wreck and fall out.
Well, you gained a couple of spots last week with a 7th place finish in Indianapolis, and this driver here finishing 37th. That hurt big time for Kevin Harvick, who felt he was solidly in position in 9th a week ago. Here's what happened early on. There's the 2-car contact with Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, it's just very unfortunate for this race team. They've been pretty solid all year. Even though they haven't been to victory lane, they have done a lot of good things. But this is just a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time as Kurt Busch got his car a little bit sideways and collected Kevin. So they're going to have to work extremely hard as they try to get themselves back in that top 12.
Our guest, Kasey Kahne here, who won this race back in June, coming off a very impressive performance, top 10 finish at Indianapolis. And Kasey, we were talking with these guys a little bit about getting involved in the chase. 6 races to go in the chase. Each week, does it change a little bit as to your thinking about how aggressive you want to be?
Yeah, I think it does. And, you know, your points and everything kind of show you where you need to be. But I remember in 06, that was the first year that I made the chase, and we were right on the edge. We won California and then ran good at Richmond those final 2 races, but without them we wouldn't have made it in, and that was probably the most pressure I've ever had on myself as a driver. Pressure from myself and from just knowing how bad we needed to do it for the team. We'd won a bunch of races that year. We needed to make the chase.
But now you're on that bubble. You're in the top 12. When you start getting down towards the end of it, do you start racing those other guys or watching these guys that are around you?
You know, I didn't really get into that year, but there was times that you knew that guy's teammate is racing me because I'm racing him in the points. And I remember that really well at Richmond, how hard different guys were racing you. You know, so yeah, I mean, if you have teammates out there and then racing another guy, I mean, you're not going to let him go late in the season if you know, late in the getting into that chase. If you're battling him in points, you can't.
Robbie Gordon on the racetrack for qualifying as you watch his lap. Let's visit with a 2-time winner here, Shannon.
That's right, 2-time winner from the pole, Denny Hamlin. You've had so much success at this track, Denny. How much pressure do you put on yourself to win every time you come here?
No more than I do at any other racetrack, but you definitely feel the pressure to at least perform, you know, top 2 or 3 spots. You know, we got a great average finish here, but that just comes from, you know, when we came here for the first time, I was supplied with a great car, and when you're able to do that, you're able to know what you need to back it up each time you come back here. You know what a winning car feels like. So I think that's why we've kind of performed so well here each time we've come.
Now, a lot of drivers have said that it's really slick out there right now. What are you experiencing? What did you see in practice?
Well, I noticed last time here, the track temperature came up about 20 degrees between practice and qualifying. So, and everyone still seems to pick up anyway. So it's kind of confusing on why that is. But it seems like all the drivers just pick up a little bit more. But our FedEx Express Toyota was pretty good in practice, probably better than what we were here in the spring. And we were a contender in the spring, so definitely looking forward to it. If we can end up somewhere in the top 10, as bad as we've qualified this year, it'll be a good day for us.
All right, top 10, great. That would be a great starting effort for Denny Hamlin, because you know, guys, he can definitely get it done here at this track.
Shannon, he can, and coming off the momentum of that 3rd place finish at Indianapolis and gaining in the point standings, this could be a big few weeks for that driver. Speaking of a big few weeks, here's a guy who Dale Jarrett pointed out a week ago, starting to make a move toward the top 12 in points.
Yeah, they've been really solid all year. For just his 2nd year in this sport and having to change over and learn to drive this new car too, I think they've just done a terrific job. David has done his job on the racetrack. Obviously does a good job communicating with his crew, and that's very important. And it'll be interesting to see as he comes back here for the 2nd time this year if they improve and can continue that trend.
He's got a good run off of turn 1 right here in the green. I talked to David in the garage this morning. he talks like this racetrack is not one of his strong points, and actually next week at Watkins Glen too. He said if he could just get through these next 2 weeks and not really lose any ground to those guys that are around him, he felt like he could make a run at that top 12.
Yeah, I like what David's done the last couple of years. I mean, I think he does a great job. I like racing with him, and his performance has been great. That whole team, and you know, he doesn't have a ton of experience in these cars, so to me, he does a great job every week.
So he had a really good lap here, all but the tunnel turn, and that seemed to really cost him some spots and some time. Still a good lap.
9th overall for David Ragan, so he's moving up in the qualifying order, also moving up in the point standings. He is 14th in the points, but folks, we told you he's been gaining on it. Take a look at how well he has done in the last 3 events. He has gained 72 points on the top 12, and he's in 14th, and you see there's the margin between himself and Kevin Harvick. Of course, Clint Bowyer is 12th overall. So if he can get himself into the top 12 for David Ragan, 2008 might mean there's a new sheriff in town.
I am David Ragan. I am a sheriff's deputy for the Crisp County Sheriff's Department. I look professional. It's a county that's neighboring my hometown, Unadilla, Georgia. I've got an old police car. It's a 1960 Ford Fairlane, painted up like the Barney Fife car on Andy Griffith's show. I don't carry a gun. I've got my badge with me today. I carry it wherever I go. You know, as far as pulling people over, arresting people, I'll let the professionals handle that. I am David Ragan.
Back at Pocono Raceway, NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying ongoing here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Scott Riggs on the racetrack in his Chevrolet Impala trying to get his car in. Right now, top of the charts, Jeff Gordon, Ryan Newman, Kasey Kahne, Brian Vickers, and Greg Biffle, the top 5. As you watch Scott Riggs, we're talking about with Kasey Kahne, who is our special guest inside the pit studio. And Kasey, I've been wanting to ask you a long time. I've been watching these commercials for 2 years. You talk about the pressure of being Kasey Kahne. And the crew guys tell me that really does happen. You pull up to a stoplight and cars full of young ladies pull up beside you and propose. Does that happen? Does that really happen?
No. All those commercials, I've never seen any of that stuff happen. For sure. I've never even seen myself dance, and they made me dance in that last one.
Well, don't pull up beside my little girl.
Because she would, because she's a big Kasey Kahne fan. I was going to ask you about dancing, but that's not you dancing. You're not that good.
No, actually, it is me, the majority of it, but no, I'm not.
Come on. That's you doing all those flips and stuff?
Yeah. They help me. They help me with it.
I was going to have you teach us, but now there goes the teaching it.
I didn't even know I was supposed to do it until I got to the shoot that day, and they're like, hey, you're dancing today, and I said, I don't dance. But they had another person there that kind of looked like me and fit in my suit and everything, so it worked out pretty good. Whatever I couldn't do, which was some of it, he took over, and he was a real good dancer.
Well, you do your best dancing in the Budweiser Dodge anyway, right?
Yeah, I drive. That's mainly what I want to do, is just drive race cars.
All right, Kasey Kahne's hoping to drive his way to a sweep at Pocono. Our coverage begins Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We'll have Rusty Wallace, Brad Daugherty. Of course, Alan Bestick will host NASCAR Countdown. We'll be here for all the action. 500 miles, 200 laps on the Tricky Triangle. Pocono Raceway presented by Cheez-It. Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. "22 cars have qualified thus far. Jeff Gordon atop the speed charts. Ryan Newman is on the outside front row. Elliott Sadler coming off that great run, the 4th place finish, best of the year at Indianapolis. He led in the Brickyard 400 a week ago.
Yeah, Elliott was really good. I raced around him a little bit at the Allstate 400, and he was fast all day.
I actually thought he had a chance to win there at the end, and because he came out 4th, and I know passing was difficult. Just how difficult a day was that last week for y'all?
I thought it was, you know, right off the bat, probably after the 2nd stop, I knew that, hey, this is what we have today. Make sure we finish the race. And so as a driver, it was a little bit difficult, but we knew what we had early on and just went with it all day long. You know, yeah, we'd like to race a lot more, but that wasn't what was going to happen last week. If we tried too hard, you were going to be one of them guys that blew a tire.
How much did that hurt your car when you broke a header on the engine? Did that hurt the power quite a bit?
Yeah, it hurt it a lot. It didn't crack it, it blew it apart. And, you know, like my left ear after the race, I couldn't even hear out of it. It was so loud just on the left side of the car there.
Wow.
Well, your teammate's not going to be real happy about his qualifying effort there. I know Elliott loves to qualify. We see Jeff Burton here signing autographs for the fans.
Yeah, I think Elliott will be a good car on Sunday, though. I think he'll be really fast Sunday.
Casey, the fans are very close to you here, and it's one of the few places now the fans actually get to see as you're coming out and getting in and out of the garage, and a lot of the drivers, Jimmie Johnson, stopping and signing autographs. I saw you had a huge throng around you earlier today. It's got to be special to be able to see some of these fans who you don't get to visit with in the Northeast that often.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the tracks where seems like there's more fans closer to us than any other track as far as pit road. They're always stacked up on pit road yelling, and they have a ton of stuff. They always have the pictures you've never seen, the die-cast you haven't seen. They have a lot of things.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to go out and do what he did here a year ago, and that's put a car on the pole. This year it's the Hendrick car. Finished second in this race last July. Speaking of fans, he's got a few.
Yeah, a couple out there. Andy alluded that he was trying to pump himself up earlier for getting ready for this qualifying lap. Let's see how he does.
Okay, don't overdrive it into one. Looks like he gets in there pretty good.
Got in there good. Will he get back to the gas?
This is the important part right here, getting off the corner.
I don't know. He got a little high up. Got in pretty low and then got high. Doesn't look like he got off quite as well as he got in.
Seems like it's really important to arc that car into the corner, especially in turn one here.
Yeah, I think it is. And even when you back your corners up in the race, you know, you back them up and you still try to get a nice arc through there and so you can get off at turn one.
Casey, I know whenever you first started into the Cup Series that Bill Elliott was there with you. How much help was that to have someone like him kind of mentoring you and teaching you about some of these racetracks?
Yeah, I think Bill, that was a huge help for me. And Bill flew up here with me this morning. It was just me and him, and it's always nice when you can talk to him and pick his brain a little bit. He's a smart man. But my first time coming to Pocono, we tested here. We were shifting, and everything was completely new to me. And Bill was right here. He's down in each corner throughout the entire day, helping me, you know, get through each corner. Bill's won races at Pocono. He's won races about everywhere. He's a pretty darn good driver.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. currently 7th of the 24 cars that have gone thus far. Here's a look at his recent Pocono history. You see the August 2007 where he started on the pole and finished second. A 4th place finish back a month ago here in June. And of course, driving the same car he had back in June. Dale Earnhardt Jr., you know a lot about him on the racetrack. How about a little bit about him off the track?
I am Dale Earnhardt Jr. We're starting a nightclub in downtown Charlotte. It's right across the street from the Bobcat Arena called Whiskey River. We've been talking about this for 3 years. I always enjoyed going to bars and seeing the different atmospheres and how creative people get on building and designing their own bars. It's a challenge, really, to put that together. How do you get people to go home and say, this is where you need to go next weekend? Designing the bar and making it more interesting. I was looking forward to that part of it. It's going to be fun seeing how it does. I am Dale Earnhardt Jr.
So he's an entrepreneur off the track and an accomplished driver on. Now, is that a pretty nice place?
That's what I hear. I just look at it so dear. I was just thinking back to his dad and the things that he got into away from the racetrack and some business ventures that Dale got me involved in, and they were very successful, but there weren't any of them a bar. So it's just funny how things have gone for Dale Jr., but these are great opportunities for him, and he's a very smart young man in making business decisions off the racetrack.
And they say location, location, location. He's got a great location.
Yeah, he does. I've made it over there a few times now, and it's a good place.
Check this run out, boys.
Mark Martin, boy, you talk about someone who has hovered in the top 5.
He's more than hovering right here. He's got a pole run going.
Outside front row last week at Indianapolis. He was second fastest in practice this morning, and here comes Mark Martin down for the white flag, and he is the quickest car in qualifying.
And he got him about 10th and a half.
Man, doing it. Thank you, baby. Damn.
It's a good lap. Mark put down a good lap last week, and we still have Jimmie Johnson to go, so we'll see how that ends up. But that was another good lap for those guys.
Boy, you talk about a great career at Pocono Raceway. Mark Martin has had it 43 starts in the past. Look at that, 30 top 10 finishes, folks. A quarter of his finishes here he's finished either second or third at this racetrack. He has Yet to win here, but he's done everything else but win it. He's been a pole sitter 3 times.
I thought that graphic had to be wrong. No wins at Pocono?
Yeah.
With a performance like that.
He just might get his 4th pole, but still a lot of cars yet to run. Back at Pocono Raceway, here is the guy that just put a lap down everyone's going to have to shoot at. Mark Martin, how about it? A former 3-time pole sitter. Could he get his 4th pole today? 53.712 seconds for his Army Strong Chevrolet. And how about the 38 car, David Gillan, out in the Yates Ford. Gilliland's 2nd quickest. DJ, what a lap.
Wow, that's an incredible lap right there. He did a terrific job getting around this speedway. And again, Doug Yates' horsepower is hard to beat.
While he slows down, let's visit with Mark Martin, who's got to be smiling, Dave.
He really is. He jumped out of that race car with a smile on his face, and they've already pushed your race car away, Mark. So tell me what you remember about that lap.
Well, it was just a real tribute to Tony Gibson and everybody on this DEI number 8 team, and want to welcome Stakem back on the race car this weekend, and say hey to all our soldiers out there. And it's just a real privilege to drive this race car, man. It's fast, and fast last week, and we couldn't keep right rear tires on it, so maybe this week will be a different story.
And you mentioned coming in to the pits here how well you and Tony are working together. You complimented him.
Yeah, you know, Tony and I, you know, would in the beginning we were just trying to get on the same page. We were missing it just a little bit, but now we really, you know, when I tell him, you know, that I need a little bit of this, he gives me a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We really got it down pat. I mean, it's really, really going well. It's so smooth. I really like Tony Gibson. He is a great leader of people, and he makes this even more fun than it already is to work with him. So, you know, that's really special. And I want to give a shout out to the big, giant, monster engines they're putting under the hood of this thing. That last week was just obscene, the horsepower we had, and this one feels really good, too.
Good communication and big motors, Doc. That makes cars go fast.
If you work in that race shop, or if you work around this guy, you're going to love Mark Martin, because he says things like that. He pats people on the back who work hard back in the engine shop, and people are working on the race car. Tony Gibson and company, see Regan Smith, his teammate, qualifying 23rd overall. And Casey, we know you got to get back in the garage area. What about the big monster Dodge you're going to bring here on Sunday? Can you pull the sweep off?
I think we have a good shot. The way the car felt today, I feel like it'll be good in race trim on Sunday, and it's a long race. A lot of things can happen, but I hope if we're in the top 10, that'd be great, and you know, we'll go from there and definitely try to get another win here.
We wish you good luck. Thanks for taking time to come over and visit with us today.
Thank you, guys.
Kasey Kahne, who won here back in June in dominating fashion, and Denny Hamlin is a guy who knows what it feels like to sweep at Pocono Raceway. He did it as a rookie from the pole in 2006. In the June race, it wasn't easy. He decided to take a full 360 and show you, I'm just that good. I can come back and win this thing. And indeed, he did it, although he had to put fresh tires on first.
Yeah, he didn't do it on that tire, but he did get the win. That was pretty impressive for his first year at Pocono.
Second event, July 23rd, again from the pole, and again the same result. Denny Hamlin in victory lane sweeps them both in 2006 as a rookie. Back live with him qualifying here, trying to get his Toyota Camry in the top 10.
Andy, I spoke with Mike Ford this morning in the garage area and was asking him, as you see Denny go through the tunnel turn and approach turn 3 in that strip of pavement, new asphalt that we keep talking about, if that made them change their race car any. And Mike said that it was kind of strange that it actually kind of swapped turns 1 and 3, where you used to be really loose down in turn 3 on that old asphalt and tighter down in 1. It's swapped that. You're tighter up there, and to get that out of it, the car's a little looser in turns 1 now.
Yeah, so they've had to loosen the cars up so much for that new pavement that now it has switched to the other end. That is nothing I've ever seen here. But that track down in turn 1 is getting pretty slick and bumpy.
Mike Ford, the veteran crew chief for Denny Hamlin. Mike out of Morristown, Tennessee, team well known for its young softball teams. Plays on a national level. Denny Hamlin qualifying 11th overall of the 28 cars that have gone thus far. Let's go down to Dave.
And Doc, as I check my notes, I guess I have to say this snuck up on us just a little bit, David. Did you know that this car had it underneath the hood?
Yeah, the car was really good in practice. We on our last qualifying run in practice, we stickered up and went out, and I missed my mark getting into one. So I came back and told the guys, I'm like, man, you just gotta just leave the car alone. I know we're 22nd practice, but if I can hit my marks, we'll be really good. And I was able to do that. So this is a fun racetrack. It's a challenging racetrack, and I think this is something to look forward to in the future with Yates Racing. Just us as a team coming back to these tracks for the second time. We have notes to go back on, and just real proud of all the FreeCreditReport.com people for sticking with us this far this year, and to everybody, our Ford Fusion was good.
All right, hey, and Doc, you know what? A wise person once told me you can't trust those timesheets. I guess there's another good reason why.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really, only the drivers really know how good a lap they got in, and if they need changes. And you heard David say right there, he missed his mark down in turn 1. That hurt his entire lap then, and he wasn't able to put down the lap in practice. He did it when it counted, though.
That's why it's so important, that communication between the driver and crew chief and that relationship. So when that driver looks at you and he says, look, don't mess with the car, it's right. You can trust him. You don't go back and make changes or second guess him, and that's why it's so important. You saw how it worked right there. It worked great for David Gillan.
David Gillan couldn't have no nicer guy, too, because that whole team, Doug Yates and Max Jones, really would like to be able to use the middle portion of this season to get a shot in the arm toward what their plans would be for 2009. Here's Reed Sorensen driving for Chip Ganassi, Felix Sabates. These guys desperately want to get a win for this team in NASCAR. Chip Ganassi's team tearing it up in IRL. 7 wins this year for IRL, 5 for Scott Dixon, 2 for Dan Weldon. Also doing well in Grand Am, but struggling here on the stock car side. Reed Sorensen, 23rd overall. As we go down and visit with Shannon and A.J. Allmendinger.
That's right. Great run for A.J. Allmendinger last week at Indy. But you said after the race that it was great to run up front with the guys, and then sometimes it wasn't so great. Why?
Yeah, they race kind of hard up there. In certain ways, it's easier to race up front because everybody's like give and take. But when it goes like 20 to go, it's like blood out there. So, but now it's great, and hopefully each week by running up there, we're gaining all those guys' respect. That's one of the most important things to do, and everybody at Red Bull Racing's been great, and so far today's been okay. We were pretty good in race trim and qualifying. We never really hit it right, so not really sure what to expect, but last few weeks been having a lot of fun.
Now, when you do run up front, obviously respect is a huge thing, but how much do you learn racing around those guys?
I mean, you just learn every lap, it seems like, and it's just amazing how quick these guys can run every lap, and but that's what we're here for. We want to keep learning, keep getting better. We still got a long way to go. I have, as a race car driver, a long way to go to be consistently up there, but we're getting there each week, and the better that we run each week, a lot easier it becomes. So I'm looking forward to Pocono. I think from last time here, we're going to have a good car and just keep plugging away at it.
Yeah, Doc, based on what we've seen the past couple weeks, A.J. Allmendinger, I guess he better get used to running up front.
Boy, momentum is so important, and boy, that couldn't have come at a better time for him, that top 10 finish, and he had to earn that top 10. He had a lot of pressure on him those final laps at last week at Indianapolis for Mark Martin and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who were back in 11th and 12th, but couldn't get by him with 2 laps to go.
The encouraging part is that 10th place is about as far back as he ran all day long. He was one of the boys all day, running up front, actually led the race, ran second a lot, so these guys have a bright future ahead of them.
Kevin Harvick and Richard Childress, the car owner, watching Jeff Burton go out to qualify. Burton hasn't won here, but has finished second twice, finished 5th here back in June.
He's going to have a long way to go. This is a 27th place qualifying run so far. Not going to be real happy with that one.
No, but Jeff and this team are accustomed to really not getting a lot of good qualifying efforts. They start back there a lot, but when it comes time to race, these guys make their way up into the top 10 pretty quickly.
Yeah, he started 20th back in June and ran in the top 10, as he said, most of the day, ended up finishing 5th. So don't ever count Jeff Burton out. Mark Martin, how about the fans loving this? 49 years of age, trying to hold on to his 4th career pole in his 44th career start at Pocono.
Yeah, I love listening to Mark Martin. Yeah, he gives everybody credit, makes everybody on that team that works so hard feel good. And you don't ever hear him talk about himself. And the man is just an incredible race driver. I mean, everything he's ever gotten in, whether it was his own stuff starting back in the early 80s, when he sat on poles and did things he wasn't supposed to do then, to right now, he's able to run up front and make the cars go.
When he was our guest last week in the pit studio, and when I asked him, can you win the championship in 2009, you're going to Hendrick full time, and he said, Jerry, wait a minute, you got to understand, I got Jeff Gordon and Jimmie Johnson and Earnhardt Jr. as teammates. You think I'm going to beat those guys? And you said,
oh, sure he can. Yeah, absolutely he can. But, you know, that he knows if he can outrun just his teammates, he's going to have a pretty good chance of winning the championship.
Here is the driver who just opened up a can on him here a year ago. Kurt Busch led 175 of 200 laps in his Dodge to win. He snapped a 50-race winless streak in this race last July. Already a winner this year at New Hampshire. We'll see what he can do in qualifying.
I've seen Kurt Busch come here a couple of times and just wear the field out. I mean, it was just amazing how much faster he looked at times than everybody else. And as you saw, he got across the tunnel, turned really good right there. Losing a little bit of time. Might have lost a little bit on the exit. He got through the center good, but that cost him a little. But he really likes this racetrack and knows his way around here.
Finished 40th at Indianapolis. Didn't get to really celebrate his anniversary with wife Eva like he wanted to. Whoa! Scrapes it coming out of the corner, but lost a little time, losing some more time. We'll see where he will clock in. Still 8th overall.
Yeah, that had to hurt him quite a bit, and that kind of reminiscent of what happened to him just last week as he got sideways coming out of one of the corners.
I think that might be a product of that new asphalt and then the transition to the old asphalt. These guys, if they get just a little bit free, they hit that old asphalt and get, you know, just sideways.
And I think if they get up just a little bit higher, you know, Casey Kahne was telling us in here that if you miss it just a little, it's really slick. You can see he's out of the racing groove by just a little bit there, carrying a lot more speed than probably what he had in practice.
Well, he did a good job not hitting that wall any harder. He did brush it just the end.
Push through the middle. Good exits of 1 and 2. 3 was a bit busy.
Kurt Busch, who will turn 30 years of age on Monday. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series past champions with wins this year. There, Kurt Busch's win at Loudon. And, of course, Jimmie Johnson, a 2-time winner, Phoenix, and last week at Indianapolis. How good was Jimmie Johnson all day long, and how good were the guys on pit road here in the final pit stop of the day?
Yeah, Denny Hamlin came in the leader at this point in time. A little trouble there as you saw getting the tire like that. These guys really did the job right there, Andy.
No trouble there. These guys are pumped up, too. Got their guy out front. Paid off, too.
Jimmie Johnson became a 2-time winner of the All-State 400 at the Brickyard, and yes, leaned over, and how sweet, although a bit rubbery, how were those bricks tasting to Jimmie Johnson and the crew there with that big victory? And this team really starting to become a second-half contender.
Okay, he's coming off all that momentum. He was the fastest car in practice. He's the fastest car so far around this racetrack. He's still in the green, coming off the tunnel turn. He's got a 10th and a half going into turn 3, Dale.
Yeah, I'd say he's pretty safe right there. Just incredible. These guys have been working extremely hard. This is not the same car they raced last week. This obviously looks just as good, if not better than that. And he is going to knock Mark Martin off the pole right now by about 2 tenths.
Woo, talk about hot.
Wow.
The man, Jimmie Johnson, 5350 P1, brother. We'll talk about it when you get in here. Just take a look at your temps.
53.50, and that is 21 hundredths quicker than Mark Martin, who had a great lap. Jimmie Johnson right now on the pole after 32 cars have gone. There are just 6 races remaining in the race to the chase. Casey Kahne won at Pocono back in June in dominant fashion. Denny Hamlin, the last driver to win both events here back in 2006. Who will it be? 500 miles, 200 laps. Our coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and then the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Pocono, presented by Cheez-It. Jimmie Johnson just put down a lap down that's going to be hard to touch. 53.503 seconds for Jimmie Johnson. Possibly his 3rd pole of the year. Here is the 77 of Sam Hornish.
See, speed's a little over 200 miles an hour getting down into turn 1.
Sam was 33rd on the speed charts in the morning practice session.
They're showing just how good the corner Jimmie Johnson had in turn 1 and getting down the backstretch. Translated into a lot of speed there.
It'll be Sam and then Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch, the points leader, and then we will begin with the 9 drivers who have to make it on time and speed. Sam will come down and flash up to complete his qualifying lap, 22nd overall.
A pretty good lap there for Sam Hornish, and only his 2nd time in a stock car here.
Sam, one of the drivers battling for Rookie of the Year contender for a bestest Rookie of the Year, finds himself 2nd overall in the point standings. Regan Smith is the rookie leader. Sam Hornish 4 points back. Patrick Carpentier, who's not here this weekend, by the way, up running the NASCAR Nationwide Series up in Montreal. Michael McDowell and Dario Franchitti no longer active in the 40 car for Ganassi Sabatis Racing. Matt Kenseth in the 17 car next to go out to qualify, and throughout the weekend a lot of people felt this was one of the guys to watch at the Brickyard 400, but it went away early.
When it went up big time right here, you see that right rear tire exploded on the car, and it just destroyed the right side.
Matt and his team have been on such a good run to that point, getting themselves what looked like solidly into that top 12, but that took it right away from them.
38th place finish at Indianapolis. He lost 3 spots back to 11th position, and it's just so tight there between 7th and 13th. A lot of these drivers, it's hold your breath time to get in the chase now. And Matt, who thought he might have been a contender, ends up with a disappointing finish a week ago. Let's go down to Dave.
And we'll find out if there was any breath holding going on here for Jimmie Johnson. You know, Chad radioed in. Let's talk about it when you get in here. What kinds of things are you going to tell him about this race car and your choices on changes?
And we improved on where we were last spring with the race car, and I think we've gone in the right direction. There's been a lot of hard work throughout all of Hendrick Motorsports, and it's nice to see it coming together. I'm glad I did my job and hit my marks. It was a very technical track, a lot like Indy, where it's easy to miss one of the corners. We got a great lap and feel really good about that. We didn't do any race practice, so I'm not really sure how we'll be in the race, but I have a sneaky suspicion we'll be all right.
Is it easier to hit your marks once you hit that first one down there in turn 1?
Truthfully, it's more like you make it through one and you're happy you made it through one, right? And then you go, oh yeah, I've got the tunnel turn. And then you make it through the tunnel and you're like, oh yeah, now there's 3, and you know, the little patch you have to deal with and where you're at. So it's a very technical track, and you really don't breathe normally until you're off of 3 coming to the stripe.
Technically, they were very fast, guys.
You're exactly right, Dave. Jimmie Johnson trying to get back-to-back poles and maybe back-to-back wins. Last car that's guaranteed a starting spot before we begin with the go-or-go-homers is our points leader, Kyle Busch. And he probably wants to forget about his visit here back in June, because that says right there, folks, 43rd at Pocono after wrecking the primary car. And he had a lot of issues throughout the weekend.
Kind of forced his way a little bit in the line on the straightaway. Didn't realize Jamie McMurray was there, and really did tear up the right front of the car. Just kind of sent him off in the wrong direction, and then here he spins out again. Catch a little air.
43rd place finish. Kyle has run here 7 times, has only 1 top 5 finish in 7 starts. And looking at that graphic a moment ago, he hasn't been that great on tracks that are flat. Martinsville, New Hampshire, he struggled on, and particularly here at Pocono.
Yeah, it seems to be a thing that they, as much as they do have figured out with this race team and this car, these are the type tracks that they've really struggled at.
He was 34th in practice. We mentioned his teammate Tony Stewart was 39th in practice. So these guys struggled. This team struggled a little bit in the morning practice session.
Yeah, they're not on a pole run here, but that's going to be a time that's going to be hard to even deal with. You see him losing a little bit more time there.
Yeah, he gets a little bit loose right through there. Still carries some speed. He didn't lose too much. But he's used to driving a loose race car and does it probably better than most.
15-time winner this year, Kyle Busch. 7 of those wins have come in the NASCAR Sprint Cup, 6 in the Nationwide Series, and 2 in the NASCAR Truck Series. Not a bad year he's had thus far.
Yeah, been a great year so far, but this, once again, is not going to be exactly what they were looking for to get started here at Pocono. 24th quickest right now, 54.38.
Kyle Busch back in 24th spot. His teammate Tony Stewart, by the way, qualifying back in 19th position. It'll be fun to watch them come to the front when the green flag waves. NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying coming your way from Pocono Raceway here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. The cars that are guaranteed starting spots have qualified. Now we begin with the guys who we call the go or go homers that are under the pressure to get enough speed and time to get in the field. There are 9 of those. 8 will make it in.
That leaves one odd man out. Who's it going to be? If you look at the practice session, it would have been Chad Chaffin. He was the slowest car in the 34. Michael McDowell was next to the last car in practice. But he's got a decent lap going right here.
I hear him playing with the gas a little bit right there. He wasn't able to get in it exactly wanted, and that's hurting his speed down the back stretch.
I think that might be a classic case of what you said. They was overdriving the corner. He got in there pretty good. He looked like the tractor was going the right way, but then coming off the corner, he just gave up a ton of time.
Yeah, and that's only his second time here, so it's a little bit tougher. When he came here the first time, he was locked in as far as qualifying. When he was locked in the race, so it wasn't as much pressure. But he did a really good job here his first time seeing Pocono.
Michael McDowell, by the way, 36th in the point standings in terms of owners' points, 14 points out of 35th. So it's important for him to qualify and try to get this car into the top 35, the take a deep breath zone where you're guaranteed a starting spot.
That's not really that bad of a lap right there. I mean, even though it's a second off, Jimmie Johnson put down such a fast lap that a lot of these times are kind of they're kind of skewed because he is so much faster. I mean, he's 2/10 faster than the second place car.
Michael won the ARCA race here last August, so he has a history of success at this racetrack in the ARCA series.
That should be a lap good enough for Michael to get in the race.
And just a little bit tight in the tunnel. But good job, guys. Thanks.
Next car to go out should be front row Joe Nemechek in the 78 car.
Even though there's only one guy going to miss this, there's still the pressure. You have to make that lap. It's not like you can just say, okay, I'm just going to ease around here. You have to go out there and still run a really hard lap. You can't miss your marks because you don't know, even though Chad Chaffin's time was off quite a bit in practice, there's a lot of things that they can do, and he may not have ever gotten a very good lap, and he might put that down qualifying.
The other thing is these guys want to be up front. They came here to race. Right. Joe Nemechek doesn't come here just to make it. He comes here to race, and you can see right here he's got that thing tracking pretty good through turn 1.
Wow.
Got to believe if that car's got it in it, old front row Joe's going to get it out of it because he can take a car and wheel it for everything it's worth. Thus the nickname somehow puts these cars on or near the front row. Probably not going to be close to it with this run, but doing the best he can. Remember, this run being compared to 30th right now, the McDowell run, not to where Jimmie Johnson is on the pole.
A little wiggle there. It's a very small strip of asphalt there that you have to hit, and I think just missing that either side, it looks like, it is not a good idea.
It's going to be good enough to make the field. It's going to lock Joe in 22nd spot.
Yeah, pretty good lap there, 54.35.
Joe Nemechek, 22nd overall, locks himself in, and we are now pleased to be joined by last week's winner of the Allstate 400 at the Brickyard, and right now he is the pole sitter here at Pocono, Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie, thanks for coming over.
You got it, guys. Glad to be here. It's nice to come up here after a good run as well, so smile on my face and enjoying it.
Let's talk about your run here first, and then we'll reflect back on last week. Going out to run these laps here for the pole, what were your thoughts before you climbed in the car to go out, and having seen the fact that your teammate Jeff Gordon was pretty good, others were also likewise. Mark Martin had put down a good lap.
Yeah, I knew Jeff's lap was strong. Mark's lap was strong. In fact, one of Mark's guys came over and said that Mark said if you can go faster than that, you can have it. So I knew that Mark, when a statement like that comes from Mark Martin, I knew that he put it all on the line. And I didn't know where we were going to be. It was a comfortable lap, and sometimes comfortable laps are slow laps, but this one worked out.
How much of what's happening for you guys this weekend, seeing Chad Knaus in the garage this morning, all the smiles on the guys' faces, comes off the momentum of that big win last week?
Yeah, the momentum from a win is it's a nice thing, and it does a lot of things for the race team. I think we're all just very proud of the progress we've made over the year. There's no doubt that we got off to a slow start and really had to fight some battles along the way, but the progress, it's been fun, it's been challenging, and right now we're just so happy to kind of understand what the car is doing, to be honest with you. We have more days now that we understand the car than we don't understand the car, and we're happy to be in that spot.
Jimmie, what has gone into that progress? What I know you're going to say testing and a lot of things, but how much of that have you had to do?
A lot. I think we're at 17 test sessions now for the 48 car this year. And our engineers, the aero guys, chassis guys, I mean, through every department, even the engine department, they keep finding more every week. Everybody's just working hard, and really it took us a long time to figure out what not to do. And then the trail of what we should do kind of showed up, and that's where we've been focusing lately.
Jimmie Johnson, our guest. Why don't we go down and visit with Kyle Busch, the points leader. Shannon?
That's right, Doc. Down here with Kyle Busch, currently 25th on the point standings. It seems that these flat tracks, you guys just haven't been able to get a handle on them this season. Why do you think that is?
Couldn't tell you. We just can't figure it out. So car felt fine in qualifying there. Not knowing how fast we had to drive it because we were bad in practice to now just not getting the full effect of what the car probably had in it. I don't know. We just suck.
You've had a great season, Kyle, but this is the place of your worst finish. How much more motivation does that give you wanting to come in here and win this weekend?
It doesn't give you any more motivation. You just go into every week trying to do the best you can, trying to get the best finish you can. And sometimes you can better your run that you had the previous time, and other times you can't. So I think 43rd, I think we can better that.
All right, definitely Kyle Busch can get it done anywhere on the track this year, guys.
Kyle Busch, obviously not where he would like to be. You remember the frustration back in June when he finished 43rd. But this is a guy exactly where he wanted to be a week ago, kissing the bricks for the second time in his career. Jimmie Johnson, a winner of the All-State 400. Back with more in a moment. Final cars going out to qualify here at Pocono Raceway. Long Pond, Pennsylvania, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series cars. Jimmie Johnson and Mark Martin on the pole, sort of a duplication of what we saw at Indianapolis a week ago in terms of how they started. J.J. Yaley now trying to get his car qualified in the field. And again, he's one of the guys that has to make it in on time and speed.
He had some speed in practice. He had enough speed to make it. Actually, he had enough speed to be up there pretty far.
As we watch him, Michael McDowell is locked in by virtue of Chad Chaffin's lap just a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, JJ was actually top 15 in practice, but he's struggling a little bit off of that corner there. Car bouncing around.
Boy, absolutely nailed the exit of turn 1, though. I mean, that's a great pickup.
Well, that's compared to Chad Chaffin's lap.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we're not comparing him to your
I'm
pole
like, man,
lap.
I'm getting nervous sitting up here.
Jimmie Johnson, our pole sitter visiting with us, took a big deep breath when he saw the green all of a sudden.
We do that to people that just come in just to see how long it takes them to. Yeah, we just want to get your reaction. That was perfect.
That's not the lap J.J. Yaley was looking for, but it does lock him in.
38th overall. That will indeed get him in. Only one driver will miss the show. And Jimmie, talking about last week at Indianapolis, when you sit back and take a look at the whole race and everything you guys had to go through on and off pit road, what is your thoughts on what went on with the tire situation?
I think we did the best job we could as a sport to put on a show when we realized we had a problem. And if you really look at practice sessions, qualifying, and then the first practice, we were all waiting for the track to rubber up, and we didn't have a clue that we had a problem until probably midway through that first practice, and by then it's too late. And in my opinion, the real question is, why did that tire turn into a powder and didn't lay into the track? We've seen it at Dover. We saw it there. There's a reason why, and we just have to find that, and we'll be back, and, go back there and put on a great race, and hopefully not have any more problems through the season. But at the end of the day, I went in the truck today and commended NASCAR, Mike Helton, John Darby, all those guys. They called the perfect race. They didn't let us go hurt ourselves as drivers. If they would have let us go, it would have been about a 10 or 11 lap bomb, and it would have gone off, and would have had big pileups and guys mad and all that. So I really feel they called a great race.
You know what? I think it's probably made for a better race because they threw a caution every 10 laps just to slow you down so they make a race instead of. If they hadn't done that, I think you could have just walked off in the sunset.
And I had to pass a lot of cars. I mean, we had a very dominant car, but we spent a lot of time taking 4 tires, and then I'd have to pass those guys. So I felt like there was a lot of good racing in that event.
Yeah, just so you know, the guy just beside you there, he predicted that you would lap the field if we didn't get that many caution flags. He was big time in the Jimmie Johnson car.
Well, we had a great car, but at the end, the 11 and the 8, the 99 really surprised me with the speed that they had. Those guys were really quick.
How much have these cars evolved? You know, I heard you talking about how much you've learned as a race team, but how much have these cars really evolved over, you know, the last 5, 6, 8 weeks?
A lot. Our setups are completely different. There's some small things that I'm doing in the race car. You only have a given amount of grip, and if you use it all up in one area of the corner, you're not going to have what you need. And you hear more and more drivers talking about how easy you have to enter the turn and how much time you spend on throttle, and I'm doing the same stuff and finding success with it.
This driver here also had a very good week at Indianapolis, getting his career best finish of 10th. A.J. Allmendinger, whose best finish had been right here back in June when he finished 12th in the Red Bull Toyota, and he locks himself in the field, 29th overall.
Jimmie, I want to go back to that last pit stop. You'd been putting on 4 tires all day long, able to drive your way back to the front, not knowing exactly what that was going to do to your car, and here you were the leader. A few anxious moments there?
You know, there was. We tried it earlier in the race, and I was definitely tighter. Got off pit road and knew that I had the best air for the given situation, but I had no idea how tight the car was going to be until I took the green and took the first couple corners. And I mean, literally my heart stopped. I quit breathing. I'm like, oh man, I'm in trouble. And I looked in the mirror, and the 99 was struggling like I was, and we had a gap over third. So I just started talking to myself and said, hey, you know, he's just as tight. He's on 2. Hit your marks, do your job, and you'll be okay. And then it was 7 long laps of driving at 100%, trying to hold off Carl Edwards.
That next to the last run, how much did that 11 car worry you? Because I know that you'd been able to pass just about anybody at wheel. That's the first time the whole race that you weren't able to really go to the front.
Yeah, we questioned the set of tires that were on that car. From when we took the green, the balance of the car was different, and that was the worst right rear that we had seen all day long. And we were in decent air, decent track position. We were in worse positions earlier in the day and never had that much wear. So that one kind of spooked me. And then Chad looked at it and said, "Man, I just don't think that's right. We'll put this last set of tires on and see what you got," and it worked.
We were talking about watching your laps, those final 7 green flag laps, and DJ said he's going to have to drive 7 perfect qualifying laps, and you did it. And phenomenal effort. How much during those 7 laps were you looking in the mirror, or how much were you looking out the windshield?
Man, the whole time. You spend so much time looking in the mirror. I was trying to break the draft without scrubbing a lot of speed on the straightaways for myself, and trying to keep Carl in dirty air if I could. And there's really not a lot of lane options there to use, but you know, a few inches left or right can really affect the guy behind you there. And I was just making sure I was doing all I could.
Well, you did plenty, and you got the win. Congratulations last week. Jimmie Johnson joining us here in the pit studio. He is the pole sitter right now here at Pocono. Of course, a 2-time winner this year already, and of course the win at Phoenix, and then last week his second All-State 400 at the Brickyard. Here is a 5-time winner at Pocono, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. How good was he at this racetrack over the years? And he will lock himself into the field in the Wood Brothers, car number 21. Good to have Bill Elliott here.
You should see him on a snowboard, by the way.
Back with more in a moment.
I am Jimmie Johnson. I grew up skiing, and then my wife and I went to the mountains for the first time. I'm watching her learn how to snowboard. I'm like, why don't I take this chance to learn with her? And went and checked my skis in, got aboard, and really been on a board since. The thing with snowboarding, it reminds me a little bit of my motocross days. On the snowboard, they're doing a power slide from turn to turn is cool, and I love being sideways. I actually proposed to my wife on the slopes. It's funny watching her go down the mountain after that. You know, she's trying to look at her ring, but her hand's in her glove, and it was just a cool moment to be up on the mountain. I am Jimmie Johnson.
You are the consummate romantic. How good is that on a mountaintop?
I am shocked that they had that B-roll ready to roll after I said that. Because
hey, these guys are pros in that truck.
Man,
this isn't their first rodeo. These folks in the truck know what they're doing.
Man, they had the
we don't, but they
snowboard
do.
on it and mashed the snowboard button.
Now, when you proposed here on top of the mountain. Is that what you said? You actually getting down on one knee in the snow and ask her to marry you?
Before that, at the banquet, we had a friend that kind of tipped what was going to take place. Just a comment slid out, and my wife looked at me, and I think she had a feeling that I was maybe going to propose. So to blow things completely out of the window, I caught her off guard, took her to the mountain, or we were going snowboarding for that winter break, And I got her up in the morning and said, hey, put on a nice outfit. Let's go get some pictures taken on the mountain. And try to throw her off guard. And at 9 a.m. on a Thursday or something, got her on the mountain and proposed to her.
So with all the congestion at the top of the mountain and her with the helmet,
we went down just a little bit.
Okay, good. So you make sure you propose to the right person.
Right, I did, and then she's looking at me and she's like, are you joking? Are you serious? Because the whole moment, it's not what I guess you'd expect as a woman growing up, little girl growing up, this fairy tale. Here you are on the side of a mountain in snowboard gear, but she loves snowboarding. It was the perfect way to do it.
You got a sweet wife. Shandy's wonderful. Chad McCumbee here trying to get his car qualified, driving the 45 that has been driven by Terry Labonte and, of course, Kyle Petty. It will be Kyle back in the car at Watkins Glen and Terry Labonte back in this car at Michigan. Chad trying to get in the field for the first time this year. Remember, he drove this car here a year ago. Locks himself in at 32nd overall. Here's Tony Raines in the 70 car.
I didn't know Tony was in the 70 car. He should do a good job for these guys, I think.
Yeah, Tony's a good race driver. He just needs to get in that right situation. You know how important that is. And he had a pretty good run in practice. He was 23rd quickest in practice, and hopefully he can make that just a little bit better as he gets his car into the field.
Tony and I had the same crew chiefs in ASA. He won the championship. I can't remember the year, but the Herzogs came in and purchased that operation after Tony won the championship with them, and then I moved to Milwaukee and started driving those cars.
Tony would be the next to the last car to go qualified. Terry Labonte will be the final car to go. Again, only one car will not make it right now. The slowest car in qualifying is the 34 of Chad Chaffin.
Tony's got a great lap going right here.
Yeah, he's doing exactly what he needs to do right now. Get this car in and then show what he can do on race day. He's not only a good race driver, he's a good athlete. He played basketball and golf, this guy. He's a good athlete.
I've seen his golf game. It's impressive.
Got a top 20 run going right here off turn 3.
Should easily lock himself in the field as he comes by. And yeah, exactly. Right. How about that one? 18th overall.
Fastest of these guys that have to make it on speed. That's the way to get in.
Did a good job driving the car. Had some pretty good Hendrick power under the hood, so can't fault. That's a good job for the 44-year-old out of LaPorte, Indiana. There are just 6 races left in the race for the chase. Casey Kahne won here back in June in dominant fashion. Denny Hamlin, the last driver to win both Pocono races. Kurt Busch dominated this race a year ago. 500 miles, 200 laps. Our coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestick, Brad Doherty, Rusty Wallace and Company, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And then the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Pocono, presented by Cheez-It. Final car to go. Jimmie Johnson, our guest here, of course, reigning in 2-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion, and of course, the most recent winner. Big win at Indianapolis a week ago, and this is Terry Labonte, the 2-time champion. Speaking of 2-time champions, Terry Labonte driving the 10 car, subbing for Patrick Carpentier.
Where's Patrick? What did I miss?
He's in Montreal up in the NASCAR Nationwide race.
I see.
Jimmy, do you feel like you have your team, everything in order? You're pretty much where you want to be. I know you'd like to have a few more wins because of what Kyle has there with the bonus points, but you feel pretty good?
I really do. I feel like we're competitive on all styles of tracks now. Our pit stops have always been good, but continue to get better and better, and I think Indy was a great example of that. We're squeaking a little more power out of the car, and everything's really coming together. And all you can ask for, you know this from doing this for so many years, all you can ask for is a fighting chance, and we have that. So when that pressure cooker starts at Loudon, I think we're going to have all the tools we need, and it's just, you know, some luck's going to be involved, and then it really falls in our laps in how we deal with it and what we do with the tools that we're given.
Check out Texas Terry here. He's got a good one going.
Good lap, isn't it?
Yeah, he was great to the tunnel turn. He missed it just a little bit through the tunnel and lost some time, but man, that's a great lap for Terry.
Again, he was being compared to the pole sitter. He was quicker. Whoa, coming off the corner.
Got a little too much off that corner. Hope we didn't talk him into doing that.
Right. Still not a bad lap. 25th overall, locks himself into the field, and so the field will be set. The only driver who will not make it in is the 34 car of Chad Chaffin. Let's show you again Terry Labonte's little excursion here coming off of turn 3.
when you leave that patch, you have a lot of grip. Then you get out to that old area, and it's amazing how fast your grip level changes. And at that point, you are committed to the arc, and it's hard to adjust.
Rubs the wall, so qualifying is complete. The lineup, great qualifying effort for the Yates Racing team. David Gillan in a 38 car, putting down some impressive numbers. Gillan qualifying 3rd overall here at Pocono. Could it be a repeat of a week ago? Mark Martin driving the 8 car for DEI puts down a number. They said, how in the world is anyone going to beat this? Martin was 2100s faster than anybody. But here came Jimmie Johnson. Oh my. The Lowe's team awfully quick, and Johnson going after his 2nd pole in a row, 3rd of the year. Jimmie Johnson becomes the pole sitter at Pocono, and we are here with Jimmie Johnson. And Jimmie, congratulations on back-to-back poles. Hey, is it a repeat from last week? You and Mark Martin on the front row.
Well, I hope to have a repeat finish. I know the other guys don't want that, but I'm just proud of my racing. Like I was saying earlier, we're doing the right things. I'm impressed with Mark and the speed that he and DEI are showing. And once we get into this race, I think Casey Kane's going to be a factor, the 11, the 99, and it's going to be a good race. And others, of course, 24, a bunch of guys.
That number 1 pit, you get the number 1 pit selection. I don't know which pit you're going to pick yet. Do you know which one?
I would assume turn 1, or down at the end.
You're going to get the first pick.
Yeah.
It seems to be very important, and it paid off for you last week too.
Getting to that camera line, it's such a short distance, and depending on the tracks, there's different distances down there, but typically you want to be that first stall.
I know this is a different car than what you ran last week, but do y'all have this many good race cars ready to go for the chase now?
I could honestly say we have a great fleet of cars. They're all the same. They really are. We work very hard to make sure they're all the same. It's just what we've been putting in it, and we're finally narrowing things down and getting onto the right setup.
Jimmie, we appreciate you coming in and taking time and being here when we can officially congratulate you as becoming the pole sitter here at Pocono. Good luck to you on Sunday.
Appreciate it, certainly.
Jimmie Johnson, 3rd pole of the year, 2nd in a row. Could he get 2 wins in a row? He will lead him down to the green flag Sunday at Pocono at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Back at Pocono Raceway, NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying has been completed. Let's take a look at our starting grid. Jimmie Johnson, 3rd pole of the year. Repeat of a week ago. Johnson and Martin on row 1.
And David Gillan, how about him? Starting in the 2nd row right there. Great qualifying run for him. And Jeff Gordon starting on the outside of the 2nd row.
Yeah, Brian Vickers, another good qualifying effort here. He'll be a factor once again as he finished 2nd here back in June.
Row 5, Biffle and Kurt Busch, who won this race a year ago. And the 43 car, Bobby Labonte, his team getting stronger and stronger each week.
Tony Stewart starting in the top 20 after a little bit of a rough practice session, but a decent starting spot.
Kevin Harvick trying to rebound from the frustration. 37th place finish at Indianapolis, trying to get himself solidly back in the top 10. Right now he's 13th in the points.
Yeah, Terry Labonte filling in here, got in a good qualifying effort. We see A.J. Allmendinger, who finished 12th here back in June. Probably not the qualifying effort they were looking for, but still they'll be have a good run here on Sunday, I'm sure.
And Jeff Burton's going to have a long way to go to get to the front on Sunday, but you know he'll be there. And Shannon's down there with Jeff Burton.
Yep, 39th place for Jeff Burton right now in qualifying. How much does that change your race strategy, knowing that you have to start from the back and make your way to the front?
Well, it really doesn't change our strategy any. It's it's a little frustrating for we just hadn't been able to qualify well lately, but we've raced pretty well and we've just struggled with our queue setup, but we don't change our strategy based on where we're racing, where we start. This is a long race, and if you can't get to the front 500 miles here, you weren't going to stay in the front if you were there. So it's not what we wanted to do, but by no means do we let qualifying make our decision for the rest of the weekend.
Now, last weekend in Indy, you started 32nd. Of course, you had a top 10 finish, so you were able to make your way through the field. What did you learn that last week that you guys are going to use this week in order to make it up front?
I don't think there's anything we learned from last week that's going to do us any good. Last week was just. The pace last week slowed down so much early in the race. We went from 32nd to, 10th in like no time. The pace got so slow, and we were really good and when that pace was down. And that's been our strength, really. Long runs, when track gets slow and slick, that's when we were good. Qualifying and the beginning of starts and stuff like that, that's where we've been struggling. But, we're experimenting a little bit. We're trying a lot of different stuff every week and trying to find something that we're really comfortable with. So at some point we'll settle down and just decide, this is what we're going to run and focus on that. But right now we're just we're experimenting a lot, trying a lot of different things, and I support that. I think that's what we ought to be doing. But when you do that, you're going to have days that aren't so good. But hopefully you'll learn a lot, and that'll let you be better long term.
All right, 39th for Jeff Burton. Doc?
Shannon, he started 20th here back in June and ended up with a top 5 finish. You can win it from back there. You see from outside the top 20, this race has been won 4 times, but oh my, does it ever help to start closer to the front. In fact, the front row has won this race 21 times. Let's check in where Dave is caught up with Matt Kenseth.
Qualifying 5th today for the Sunday race. And Matt, at this place, how good to having your car starting up front?
It's good to start up front everywhere, I guess. That's what they tell me. I don't start up front very often, so I don't really know firsthand. But it's a good qualifying effort. We've had a pretty fast car here qualifying the last couple times. We had a great driving car here the last race, best car I've ever had here. So Chip and these guys did a great job today and had some good speed in it.
Let's talk about this racetrack since June when you all sort of discovered that patch over in Turn 3, and it seemed like everybody was racing for it. Everyone wanted to run there. Is that where you have to run in order to have a quick lap around here during the race?
Yeah. Unless you're passing someone and they're up there in your way, then you got to try something else to get around them. But yeah, there's just a lot more grip. The asphalt here, I don't know how old it is, but it feels old and rough and slick. And when you put that new patch up there and it's just a little wider than what the car is, you can get through there pretty quick and get down the straightaways pretty fast too with that gear roll.
So backing up one corner, does that change then how you set up someone to get to that spot to make sure you get the spot?
I don't really know what that just meant, but
let me say it again so that humans can understand it. Coming out of the tunnel turn, do you have to run that differently so that you set a guy up differently over here in order to get that good asphalt?
No, really, turn 1 and turn 2 are pretty much the same as what they've always been, and it seems like a lot of passing happens in turn 1 because there is several grooves there that are close to the same speed. So I think a lot of passing really happens in turn 1, and then you kind of finish it off going into the tunnel. A lot of people drive under someone on exit of turn 1 and finish it in a tunnel. So turn 3 is kind of all by itself now. It's hard to set up for that corner. It seems like you have to work harder on turn 1 than what you used to, and everybody gets through that new patch pretty quick.
Now, based on what you've seen out of your race car, looking for your first win here at Pocono, how close is it as far as a race winner?
I have no idea. I've never really been a threat to win here before, so I hope we can run up front on Sunday. We had a really competitive car last time. It's just there was a lot of crazy stuff in that race with pit strategy and green flag stops and all kinds of stuff. So hopefully we can keep it up front, and hopefully we can just be in the mix at then and have a shot at it.
All right, Doc, so maybe gaining on it is the way to look at it for Matt right now.
Yeah, Matt has 3 top 5 finishes here and has run well here, but as he said, he's yet to go to victory lane. Now, we showed you the fact that it is important to start up front here, but guys, you've won this race 3 times, and Andy, you've been a major part of success for different drivers here over the years. What can you do if you're back in the pack? What strategy-wise to get yourself up there and get a shot at winning this race?
Well, some of it's kind of obvious. You can take 2 tires when a lot of guys take 4 early in the race and gain a lot of spots there. But one thing you can do here is you can short pit, and tires are worth a lot, especially on this car. Right side tires, you're going to have to take rights. You can't really, I don't think you can go without changing any tires and gain that track position unless you've run just a few laps. But if you can pit short, in other words, pit before you're really out of fuel, you can gain a little bit of track position that way, providing the caution doesn't come out. Every time I've ever tried, it seemed like the caution came out right in the middle of my strategy and kind of blew it, but that is one thing you can do here.
Yeah, and before, we never saw 2 tires working here, but because of the way this car is constructed and the way that it uses up the right side tires, it's really not abusing the left side, so you can do that. But the best way to do the strategy is to have a good handling race car to where all 4 tires are working, and this is a racetrack because of the width, and we heard Jeff Burton talk about how long this race is. If you have a good handling car, you can literally drive your way to the front, and that's the best way for me, I think, to get there.
One driver who'd like to drive his way to the front, Tony Rain, standing by with Shannon.
Yeah, it's Tony Rain's first start with Haas Racing, 18th place qualifying. How is the car for the race? How do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think it'll be okay. We showed up here with 2 packages for qualifying trim. The first one was okay, but not as good as the second one. And Dave and the whole team said that the second one was a little bit better for race trim, when they tune it up a little bit. So we're optimistic. It's obviously good stuff, Hendrick Motors. And it's a good organization. They're just trying to find the right fit. And, I'm excited to be here. I like Pocono, and to start 18th Sunday's pretty decent. So, I'm pretty happy, but, Sunday's where it's at. Today was just a, preliminary.
First race with this team, how's the chemistry between you, crew chief, spotter, just the team overall?
Well, I thought it was pretty good, myself. Dave's, sharp guy, and they got a lot of support here, and they get some help from other people, and it's it's just my job to tell him what I feel and then go drive it, so if it makes sense to him and he fixes it, I'm happy. So it's really not that hard, but a lot of times, drivers, they get we're a weird lot. We feel different things sometimes with amongst different drivers. So Dave's had a lot to work with this year, so he read me pretty good, I thought.
That seems pretty easy, huh, Doc? Just tell him how he feels and go drive it?
Yeah, what a great job by Tony Raines to put this car in. I mean, to get this car qualified, first time in the 70 car, and they've got to be impressed with that performance. And he was really down there working with his team, the garage area this morning, trying to be able to say, hey, let's all pull together and show them we got something for somebody.
I like Tony Raines. He's one of those straightforward, no nonsense kind of guys, and I guarantee you, for a crew chief, he's a great guy to work with. I've never worked with Tony, but seems like he'd be great.
Yeah, he's a race driver that knows his race car really good, and I think crew chiefs like that.
Qualifying completed here at Pocono Raceway. Jimmie Johnson on the pole for the second week in a row. Mark Martin, David Gillan, best start of the year. Jeff Gordon and Matt Kenseth, the top 5. Back with news and notes in a moment. Back at Pocono Raceway, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series pole qualifying is complete. Jimmie Johnson on the pole, Mark Martin outside of him, a repeat of the front row from a week ago. Let's go down to Dave.
And I've caught up with Terry Labonte, who you guys were encouraging through that very fast lap, and they think they might have over-encouraged you into turn 3, Terry. What happened?
Well, thanks a lot. Yeah, I knew something happened, but no, the car was just a little bit loose, and I thought I had enough room between where I was wanting to be and the wall, and I didn't quite make it, and I got in the wall with the right side of the car, and so anyway, I hate that. But it's not bad. We're going to be able to fix it and be ready for happy hour in the morning. So I think we've got a pretty good car, and I'm disappointed because we didn't qualify quite as good as I thought we should have, but that's my fault.
And I think a 2-time champ, though, Doc, will have a handle on Pocono.
Gotta believe Texas Terry will be very good here when the green flag waves. And with Terry Labonte in the 10 car, Chad McCumbee, the 23-year-old, takes over the 45 car this weekend for Petty Enterprises. NASCAR this weekend on Tuesday, guys. This week, apologize to the fans and everyone involved for the tire issues at the Allstate 400.
Well, no doubt that the apology needed to be to our race fans that have stuck with us through a lot of things, and the racing will get better, and they will fix those problems, especially by the time we get back there next year.
Man, how about Chad McCumbee here, starting his first race in the Petty Dodge?
And has Ryan Newman reached a verbal agreement? Where will he go next year? Will he be a part of Stewart Haas Racing? And NASCAR Nationwide cars will not go back to Mexico City in 2009. Guys, qualifying, Jimmie Johnson does it again. Some pretty impressive runs. We heard from Tony Raines a moment ago. That impressed me pretty well. But how about David Gillan starting 3rd overall? Best start of the year for the Yates Racing Ford.
Yeah, that's great for David Gillan, but how about that old man up on the front row? He's going to be tough to beat on Sunday.
Yeah, same front row that we had last week, and Mark Martin's looking to change the outcome, though.
NASCAR Now follows us here in just a moment. Of course, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, NASCAR Sprint Cup Pocono practice, and early NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying up in Montreal, Canada, followed by live flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide cars. And we'll be here Sunday starting 1 o'clock Eastern Time with NASCAR Countdown, NASCAR Sprint Cup action at Pocono, presented by Cheez-It. For Dale Jarrett, Andy Petrie, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Jerry Punch. Once again, thanking you for joining us for NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying. What a day for the stars and cars of NASCAR. But it was all said and done, it was 2-time and reigning Sprint Cup champion Jimmie Johnson who was able to get it done. The 48 car that won last week at Indianapolis will lead around the green flag Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.